And this isn't a gimmick, this isn't propaganda. I'm up here because it works. I live it. Every day of my life, I live it. But I decided early on in life that I wanted to live life, not life live me. So a lot of us go on all day or our whole lives letting life live us and not understanding the kind of opportunities and the things that you can unlock. But you first have to admit certain things. Once you admit, then people start to believe in you because you don't have a problem saying, hey, you know what, my bad, I apologize about that. I was wrong about that. You have the right, I would say, the right approach on that. Let's take your approach, you know? So it's like people micromanage their time, micromanage their life, and they don't delegate enough. So therefore, you don't allow advice in. And that's why I say in the song, Feel This Moment, I say, ask for money and get advice. Ask for advice, get money twice.
So that, to me, sounds like you're also a really good listener, are you?
Absolutely. A good friend of mine, when I was on tour with Luther Campbell from Two Live Crew, was my first tour. And big guy named Ron May. And Ron May turns to me, everybody calls me Chico in Miami. So, yeah, what's up? So he said, Chico, if you take the word listen and you scramble it up, what word is it? And I said, I'm thinking. And he said, silent. So shut the fuck up and listen to me. And I did.
That's powerful.
Yeah, I did. All I did was listen to what Ron would tell me, Luke would tell me, and I apply that to this day in the game. Because it was an independent state of mind. It's where, you know, in our world, we have to deal with labels, just like you guys have to deal with corporations and companies, it's the same thing. But you get caught up in this protocol of bureaucracy, red tape, politics, and when you're independent, you're able to fight that. But it becomes David versus Goliath, literally. But you gotta love the fight. And that's what I wake up every morning to do. I love being the underdog, I love being the fighter, I love being the one being counted out. I love when some people, to this day, I mean, we just put out an album yesterday, thank God for that. You know, it's our 10th album, 17 years in the game. And the people look at me and say, you don't got no hits on this album. And this album's not gonna work, and that ignites me. Because that's how I know how powerful this album really, that it's gonna be. And that's why I named it Climate Change, because we're gonna change the climate in the music industry once again.
Once again. When you do talk about those more difficult times in life earlier on, where did you find your strength to keep going? I think that, you know, life is so much about stamina, and sometimes it's staying in the game, and you know, really, sometimes it's always great to listen to people who you can trust, but you also have to shut out the noise. So where did you get the strength from?
My mother. My mom is a superhero in my eyes, and it's the truth. She was, she is. She's just real, raw, and uncut, but a genius, sharp. So a lot of things that she would tell people that didn't want to hear because it was the truth, and the truth hurts. It's almost like Jack Nicholson and Tom Cruise, and when he tells them, you want me to tell you the truth, you can't handle the truth. That was my mom. Well, that is my mom, I would say, okay? So she taught me how to do that. And coincidentally, and that's why I tell you, none of this happens by default. This is all by design. In 5th grade, my mother put Tony Robbins on for me, and I lived in a neighborhood in Miami called Carol City. Believe me, nobody was listening to Tony Robbins in Carol City. And me being a 5th grader, I was trying to listen to Two Live Crew and 69 Boys and you name it, other than NWA, and other than other than Tony Robbins. So when she could take me to school, she had Tony on, and I went to go touch the cassette deck one day, and she hits me. Boom. She said, hey, you pay for this car? I said, no. She said, don't touch my radio. I said, all right. So subliminally, I would have to listen to Tony whenever I was in the car with him. And I remember this one story about Colonel Sanders and KFC. And Kentucky Fried Chicken, and that it took them 1,000 times to sell out that recipe. How many of us have run into a no 1,000 times about one particular thing that we were pushing? I mean, I have. With music, I hear it all the time. It's not gonna work, crazy, new sounds. That's not what they want from you, kid. And it's stuck in my head. So for me, no became yes. The more I heard no, the more I was like, I gotta fight for this. I believe in this. You know? And what you gotta do is cut out the noise.
Yeah.
And right now, folks, as a society, y'all dealing with a lot of noise, and it's called social media. All right? And I heard a quote that says, social media is the socializing, what reality TV is the reality. Put that together. And what I say is, people are so busy taking so many pictures, you're missing the big picture. All right? It's just the truth. You're so connected, you're disconnected at this point. Okay? And that's noise right there. Me, I don't deal with social media like that. Me, what I do is I utilize it to give motivational either quotes or things that I got going on, so people really see that my life is not what you think it really is. And let me tell you how I break it down for people. Guy, a very powerful guy in the music business. He actually sold Beats headphones with Dr. Dre to Apple for about $3 billion. His name is Jimmy Iovine. Jimmy Iovine has two quotes that I love. One of them says, "I won't kill you, but I'll watch you die." That's powerful. That means he gave you all the advice in the book and you chose not to listen.
Okay.
And number two, he told me to understand success. He said, to be successful, you have to understand success. I go, wow, this guy just shot me a riddle. How do I figure this out? So I did what I've done best in my life. I remixed it. And I broke down the word success. Because everybody here wants to succeed, be a part of success, and be successful. Because there's levels to it, okay? Now, as you succeed, it's like making it. It's not making it, it's maintaining it. Maintaining it leads you to success. Now, break down the word success. Suck. Cess. Now, when you're running the success, you're giving people access to suck in excess. Okay? When you can understand, or like Jamaicans say, they say, no, me no understand, me overstand. Okay? When you can overstand success, then you can truly welcome what it is to be successful. All right? I learned how to do this in the music business. I got a lawsuit for my first big record called Culo. For those that don't, Culo. For those that don't speak Spanish, in layman terms, it means ass in Spanish. Okay? So imagine my first hit record's called Ass. I got to deal with this as a rapper now. Where I get sued for $500,000 for doing what everybody else was doing. And I told Little John, I said, man, can you believe my first big record I got sued for? He said, Chico, that's because you're doing the right thing. That means it's a hit record. I said, oh, change my perspective on lawsuits. Now I welcome lawsuits. Yeah.
It's a bit of validation.
You're doing the right thing, because if they're not talking, if they don't want a piece of you, that means you ain't worth nothing and you ain't worth talking about.
Armando, you talk about the importance of listening.
Yes.
But I've heard you say one quote, which I think is really fascinating. It was new to me. And you said that if somebody shows you who they are, believe them the first time.
That's Maya Angelou. May she rest in peace. She said that. She said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time.
So you don't keep making the same mistakes.
Same mistakes, because that's a part of the noise. That becomes a part of the anchor. It becomes where the cancer continues to grow. It's like it starts to infect the rest of the body. When you have people around you, and I know everybody here knows the negative people around them. I guarantee you know them. Your gut tells it to you. Sometimes you don't even want to be in the same room with that person. You feel that tension. And it could be family, it could be friends. And I learned this one from Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille has a good one. He said, you know what was the smallest word but the hardest word for me to tell anybody when I got to the league? Family, friends, no. No, I'm not going to lend you the money. No, I'm not going to help you. No, that's not what the position of you becoming a professional basketball player. Of course you want to help people. But the question is, when you help them, it happens to me all the time. I got a lot of things on my back, and thank God that we can do it. But I vet it. I brief it. Okay? Because one thing is to help people that want to be helped. Another thing is to enable people just by helping them. Okay? And sometimes we do it with our kids. I got 6 kids. I got, 7 technically, but I got 6 kids. Maybe 8 or 9. I don't know at this point. Not But you want to give everything to your kid, but are you really helping them if you're giving them everything? The number one thing my mother gave me, other than love, that's what she was supposed to give me as a mother. She taught me how to survive. You could put me in any atmosphere, any environment, and I'll adapt to it and figure out a solution, because that's what she would always talk about. I mean, constant evictions, lights getting cut off, water getting cut off, you name it. But she always found a way to, not the word manipulate, because I don't like that word, but she found a way to maneuver and navigate. And that to me is one of the biggest things when it comes to that quote. When someone shows you they are, believe them the first time. You're doing them a favor, you're doing yourself a favor.
How do you know, though, because you would have so many people coming up to you in different elements. How do you know, though, who to listen to? I mean, when you watch somebody, are you watching them? Are you listening to them? Like, how do you know who to trust? What's your test?
Trust is a whole another animal.
Okay.
Yeah, like me and you got to do some real things together to really trust each other.
Well, that says a lot.
Yeah. Especially growing up the way that we did, that was, it took a lot for someone to say, hey, I trust you. But as far as listening and learning, in one of the songs we got on climate change, I said, I've learned from the worst, but listen to the best. Figure out that riddle and figure out success, okay? So all the people that I see do negative things, I learned not to do that. I learned which way not to go, or what avenue not to take, let's just say. But when the best is talking to you, listen. Okay. They're at that level for a certain reason. Nobody gets there by default, and there's no magic bullet, there's no magic trick, magic formula, there's no way to cut the corner, there's no way cheating is. Okay? They always tell me, you're so lucky, Chico, you're so lucky, Armando. Man, that's funny, because the harder I work, the luckier I get. So what do you do in life? Thank you.
Armando, it seems as though you clearly have worked very hard to develop everything you've been developing, and you have created a global brand, over 55 million Facebook followers, and much more on the stat front. I'm just wondering, from a business perspective, what's next for you, and are you an entrepreneur first? And a musician was one of your first businesses. Mm-hmm. How do you view yourself and your platform, and where we go from here?
Well, I fell in love with music. My first love was basketball. Okay, obviously that didn't work out too good for me. Had a lot of heart, but not a lot of height. But music became a passion. It still is. The entrepreneur or the entrepreneurship, to me, is just a pretty word for a hustler. A hustler in a great way. One that is unconventional, untraditional, doesn't have a problem thinking outside the box, invites new ideas. And that's what music became for me. And if you listen to the songs, I'm giving you my life, but they're happening right in front of you guys. When I tell you, me not working hard, yeah, right, picture that with a Kodak. Or better yet, go to Times Square, take a picture of me with a Kodak. And what I mean by that is, I was performing at New Year's Eve with Ryan Seacrest. Times Square, Kodak's right behind me. This is after I made the record. A lot of things in these records have come to life. My mother always told me the pen is mightier than the sword. And that's why it's always great just to write down goals, as outlandish and crazy as they may be, put them away and then come back to them a year, 2 years from now, you go, wow, at least a quarter of this goal has really come to life. I'm moving in the right direction. Sometimes we psych ourselves out of being successful, okay? And mind you, successful is another word that may have a definition, but whatever your definition of being successful may be. Right. So music gave me, and yes, it was a part of the hustle, it gave me the avenue to be able to touch the world, okay? Now it gave me the opportunity to give back in a real way. Mm-hmm. We went back to one of my old neighborhoods called La Pequeña Habana, Little Havana in Miami, and we opened a school called SLAM. SLAM is Sports Leadership, Arts, and Management. I was already on tour without being involved in music. I went to at least 20 to 25 schools, different cities, different neighborhoods, different states. And I seen what the public school system was and is. There was 2 teachers that changed my life. One of them, I was living in a foster home in Roswell, Georgia. Her name is Miss Ryan. And she seen that I had hurt. She seen that there was pain. And she would take me out to the movies, after school, the whole night. She showed me love. She showed me that I could really do something in my life, no matter what I was being dealt at that time. And I had another teacher, and coincidentally, listen to her name, ironically what it is, Hope Martinez. So Hope was the one that really gave me the chance in the music business, because she believed in me. You know, it's one thing for your mother to tell you, oh, you got talent and I love you, and you know, that's what mothers are supposed to do. But when someone else tells you, hey, you got talent.
Yeah.
And she gave me that opportunity. And she has a slogan that I live with to this day, which is amazing for business and amazing for life. The biggest risk you take is not taking one. Think about that. So that gave me the opportunity to be able to give back to these kids, but make education fun for them, exciting for them, sexy for them, where they want to come to school. I mean, it's hard for me to get these kids out of school. And all we did was just tweak the curriculum. How do we tweak it? We said, well, we all know that kids love sports, and what's so beautiful about sports is it shows you teamwork, shows you the more you work, the better you get. It shows you discipline, meaning you gotta be there on time. You gotta respect other people's time, respect other people's positions. Okay. Well, we took the curriculum and we flipped it. Instead of algebra, well, X, Y, and Z now is the 40-yard line. They got 6 seconds left and they need 3 points. That's your X, that's your Y, that's your Z. Data analytics, let me tell you, if I had a class in high school called data analytics, I would have walked the other way. Okay? Well, let me tell you what these kids do. They do fantasy football. So we got them involved in the city with every major team doing what they love. So now they're learning, but they love to learn. And that to me is the priceless part of the legacy. That to me is, thank you so much. Thank God we do it. And the music was the avenue for that. And these kids, this is how you really make a change, because believe me, I deal with politicians, I deal with everything across the board. Politics, I call it politics. And it's just the truth. It's just the truth. So with these kids, when I see them, I see me. They don't have to tell me this story. I can look in their eyes and know what their family went through to get them to the United States of America, or to get them, let's say, to Canada for a better life. I know what things they might be dealing with, whether it's, unfortunately, whether it's crime, whether it's sexual abuse, whether God knows what may be going on in their house. But that place is their sanctuary. And when I can read that, that's when you make a real change. Because now, look when we're having this conversation in our lives. Imagine you have this conversation with a kid that's 7, 8 years old, and you're telling them what it is to mold his own mind, or her mind, what it is to believe in itself, motivate itself, inspire itself, and get it ready for what life's about to do to you. Because life, let me tell you, every day you wake up, it's going to tell you, bah, sit back down. Bah, sit back down, and you got to know how to welcome that fall. And that's why I tell you, when I get up in the morning, I'm like, well, give me the best shot possible, because I'm feeling good today. Give me a good one. And that's what we want to do for these kids. That, to me, is what made the journey so important. And like I said, priceless before, but where the music